Do you know that in the first 30 years of your life, you make your habits? For the last 30 years of your life, your habits make you. I just find this a very interesting quote from Steve Jobs. And I want to explore that today on the podcast. How do we form our habits? Hello, everyone. My name is Teresa McCloy. Welcome to the Real Life Process podcast. I'm so glad you've tuned in today. Every week here on the podcast, we talk about practical tips, action steps, and ways that you can learn to live from rest, not rush, and really do what matters. For many of you in the listening audience, you are entrepreneurs. You are people building your own businesses. For others of you, you're just looking for those practical action steps. How can I feel like I'm living into my best life? And for either place that you're listening, we're just glad you're here and you're part of the Real Life Process community. Oftentimes, we refer to our signature content, the 4 components of the real life process, but we dive into other topics as well. And today, we're going to do just that. We're going to talk about forming habits and how those are formed. And if you've listened to the podcast at all, you know some of my story. I am one of those people that's been addicted to all the self-help books, all of the ways that tell me the best way that I can live life. And it took me some time through experience to figure out that I had to create my own rule of life, my own way of forming habits, rhythms, routines, and behaviors. It was my real life, and I had to live into that, and I had to decide how that was going to be. And through those decisions, through that actually discernment, not decisions, I came up with a framework. Not a, here's how you should do it just like me, but actually a framework. And part of that framework really does lean into this idea of forming habits. And so let's explore that today on the episode, bring it into the signature content that we have, and hopefully you can walk away with something practical that you can apply into your life and the work that you love as well. So let's think for a minute about technology, right? Technology really has kind of promised us that it would help us form some of these habits. It's improved our life and given us some ways of setting reminders if you use task management or different things, but there's part of it that has actually created additional bad habits for us as well. So we want to step up a little higher than just the to-do lists or the task management software and how we use those habits. And we want to look a little bit bigger picture. I often say we want to get up on the balcony just a little bit more. So one of my favorite performance coaches is Brendon Burchard, and he has a great book. Actually, I can grab it right here if you're watching on YouTube. He has a great book, High Performance Habits. We'll put a link to it in the show notes. It's gotten to be a little bit older book, but recently I've been going through that book again. I've been listening to some of Brendon's work, and I really want to kind of spin off of what he shares in this book, that becoming a high performer, and I don't know that I'm in love with that word, but living at your best self, living into all the places that are the best you. We want to form some habits that help us to grow the self. And as we go through some next episodes, I'm going to talk about even rituals and rhythms and routines that are all part of this habit formation. But in the book, High Performance Habits, Brendon talks about 6 habits that move the needle. And he calls 3 of them tactical habits and 3 of them strategic habits. So the tactical habits are kind of this bigger picture area, and I'm not going to talk about those as much today. They're seek clarity, generate energy, and raise necessity. And you can reference Brendan's book or, YouTube's and all the information he has in there about those tactical habits. But then he talks about strategic habits and, the 3 strategic habits and how do we flesh those out. And those strategic habits are increase productivity, develop influence, and demonstrate courage. Now, increased productivity, as you know, is one that I really lean into. As a type 3 on the Enneagram, sometimes I'm accused of being too much about the productivity piece. I see the world through the lens of effective and efficient. And in fact, I used to use a tagline years ago that said, forget productivity, do what matters. I even thought about using that as a title of the book that we have coming out this fall. But I actually dropped the forget productivity and just went with do what matters, live from rest, not rush. Because even as we form strategic habits, we want them to be habits that actually help us to live from a place of internal rest, not external craziness, not driving us, but they come from things that we have discerned, even strategic habits that matter to us. But let's talk about this increased productivity, because this is where a framework such as the real life process or something that you even develop on your own, doing the same thing over and over can help you. Kind of the moves, as Brendan Burchard talks about. Now, we talk about, action steps and activities that make the project happen. We use mind maps to do that and drawing it out. That's a habit that you can train your brain into of every time you are going to think about something, you kind of mind map it out and you put the thoughts that you have, the brain dump that you have on a piece of paper, and something about seeing it visually kind of makes it come to life. And you can say, oh yeah, that's the first thing that I need to do. That can just be a habit that you can teach yourself. Using action steps for each and every project can be a habit. And then putting it on the calendar and actually saying when it's going to happen. So much of the overarching principles of the framework of the process are really creating habits. Another way we call that is a rule of life. This is the way I always work through things. Every 6 to 8 to 12 weeks, I sit down, I kind of get up on the balcony, I look at the big picture, and I walk through these things. So what happens is if we don't form habits, many times we spend way too much time on things that really aren't going to move the needle or move us forward. Now that sounds like a work thing, right? A productivity thing. Oh, she's all about us getting things done. But it really isn't all about the productivity. It's moving the needle in a relationship. Are you going to take the time to have the difficult conversation? Are you going to take the time to block out time to spend with someone? So habits come when we form them around the right things that will move the needle relationally, spiritually, financially, in our profession, whatever that might be. I also really like a book called Atomic Habits as well by James Clear. And I love the way James Clear explains how you make a habit by attaching it to another habit that you're already doing. For example, simple things like when I brush my teeth, I take my supplements for the day right after that. When I go in to start my coffee in the morning, because we have to have coffee in the morning, when I go in to start my coffee in the morning, it triggers me to think about, getting out my mug, filling it with my creamer. Those are just habits that have happened over time. I have to have creamer in my coffee. So doing small things and building from that. In your morning routine, part of one of the habits that I have in my morning routine, I love the app called Pray As You Go, which is a meditation, kind of a liturgy app that does a short Lectio Divina, is what they call it, where they repeat the scripture a couple of times and then ask you questions about it. It has a musical part. They usually don't last more than 10 to 12, 15 minutes at the most. It's absolutely free. We'll put a link again in the show notes to the episode. But that is a habit for me now. I have one of those little suction cup speakers in my bathroom and connect it to my phone by Bluetooth. And usually as soon as I get done blow drying my hair in the morning, I will turn on that app and I will listen to that liturgy and to the music and just set my intention for the day. But it is really hard. I have done it so long right after blow drying my hair that it is very hard for me to not think, blow dry hair, listen to the app, listen to that process. And it's about the time that it takes me to finish up the rest of my morning routine. So attaching two things together, doing a small thing and building from that. The interesting thing that I find about habits is you can build both good habits and bad habits. For example, I have someone here in our co-working space that I work with that recently has lost some weight. And she was sharing with me that her and her husband had the habit of eating something in the evening. I think it was right before they go to bed. And she had replaced that habit with some different things that she did in the evening and just cut out that snack time in the evening. And from that has lost quite a significant amount of weight. She's looking really great. And so the changing of a habit and attaching it to something else that's even a bad habit. What could I do instead? What could I create? Because our brain is wired and triggered to that particular thing, whatever that is, a time, 30 minutes before bedtime, whatever that might be. So attaching something different there. Another example is if I want to drink more water in the morning, if I want to get in a couple of glasses before I even leave the house, it's leaving a water glass where I'm going to see it visually. So it reminds me that I need to drink the water. So that association of those habits. So in the framework of the process, we've kind of tried to build some of these things in so that you can create some habits. As you think about what project you might want to work on in the next 90 days, and you build out naturally, just go to a mind map. That's the natural thing that you want to do, is just go to a mind map. And then the next natural thing that you want to do is build that out into actionable steps, because you've created that habit, that rhythm, that routine to do the same thing and think in the same way. So I really want you to think from this episode a couple of things. I want you to think about, what habits do you want to build? What's a couple of things, both strategically, so little things that you want to change, little habits of, right now I'm going to give up the habit again. I'm saying it right here on the podcast, of drinking soda. I'd given up that habit, and, my body is triggered right now. My brain is triggered to a certain place of craving, wanting soda, not a wanting habit, wanting soda. So I'm going to train my brain again to associate certain things with water, instead of, leaving a glass of water on my desk all the time, knowing that I'm going to drink a couple glasses before I leave, knowing that I'm going to drink glasses before I go to bed. Because many times I'm just really needing water. I'm thirsty, and I think that I want soda. So I want to form a new habit. So what's a new habit that you want to form? Now, going back to Brendon Burchard and the tactical habits of, seeking clarity, those types of things, generating energy, raising necessity. Those are those high performance, get you up on the balcony, and you could read about those in his book. But the habits I'm talking about are the small, little, incremental things that could make a difference. The process was really created to help you form these habits, these rituals, these routines around what matters to you, what's important, how do you want to grow yourself and the work that you do in the world. So we'd love to hear from you around the habits that you want to. You can reach out to us in our Facebook community, the Real Life Process community. We'd love to hear the one word. You'll see us post something there where you can respond with, here's the habit that I am working on. Here's the thing that I want to bring, this small strategic habit. I've shared mine over the next few months. I'm working on the habit of changing drinking soda into drinking water. Small incremental things. We always just want to help you take the next step forward in your real life. So thanks so much for listening to this episode. Remember, we would love for you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're on Instagram. We're in Facebook. And as the book comes out over the next few months and releases on November 1st, we're going to be sharing new and exciting ways that you can connect with us, that you can be a part of our community and our launch team and all the things. So if you're not subscribed to our email list, go to thereallifeprocess.com. Make sure that you either send us an email so we know you want to be on the list, or that you subscribe to the free offer that we have right now of the Intro to Needs and Values, and you walk through that content, and we'd love to hear more from you. So again, thanks for listening. If you want to grow your business, if you're one of those entrepreneurs or coaches or consultants and you're looking to grow your business, reach out to us. We'd love to connect with you and help you in that way too. If you really want to be certified maybe in the content that we do and in a part of our community, or if you just want to know more about the work that we do, reach out. We'd love to chat with you, love to meet you face to face. So thanks so much. I can't wait to hear about the habits that you're wanting to form around the things that matter to you. Remember that every ordinary day has an extraordinary moment. You just have to look for them. And we'll be back next week with more from the Real Life Process podcast. Have a great week, everyone.